We're on New Testament base, and the subject is about schach, and we know the three conditions for schach kosher is that it should be growing from the ground, an item which grows from the ground. Right now, it's not attached, and also it should not be makabel tumah. And we're in the middle of the subject about being makabel tumah. That's the Mishnah now we're going to talk about. And we said that mass, we had some mention about this before. It depends if it was made to sleep on, then it's makabel tumah. If it was made as roofing or partition, so it should not be makabel tumah. Partition, the Gemara says sometimes is makabel tumah. Depends if it's used. Sometimes people do wrap themselves up in a curtain, in those times at least, in order to warm themselves. But I guess according to today's culture, it wouldn't happen anymore. But something which is made for roofing is not makabel tumah. So the Mishnah talks about a machzelas. Machzelas is a mat. Machzelas kanim. A machzelas is a mat made out of reeds. Gedola, if it's big. Big means that it's bigger than the size of a bed. So that gives already, it leans that it's not made for sleeping. If it's made for sleeping, you don't make a huge thing. You make it the size of a bed for one person probably. So machzelas kanim gedola asal l'shchiva mekabel l'stoma ve'en b'sachin ba l'sichach b'sachin ba ve'en mekabel l'stoma. So the Mishnah says it depends what you made it for. If you made it for sleeping, so that is makabel tumah. It's medrus, something which is made to sleep on is makabel tumah, to sit on, to stand on. But if it's so then it's not good for kosher for schach. But if you made it for roofing, l'sichach, it doesn't mean dafki made it for the mitzvah of sukkah. You made it for roofing, so then it's not makabel tumah. So you can use it for schach. But the Mishnah has talked about the word gedola. So machzelas kanim gedola. If it's big, what if it will be small? Small means like the size of a bed or something like that. The Mishnah seems like it's not kosher, even though if you didn't make it for sleeping. We'll see all this in the Gemara soon. But he says the same thing as the Tanakama, that if you made it for sleeping, it's not good. If you made it for roofing, it is good. But he says there's no difference if it's Ketana or Gedola. No difference if it's big or small. Tanakama said only if it's big. So if you read the Mishnah plain, it would sound like we're talking about if he actually made it for sleeping, it's not good. Actually made it for roofing, it is good. Tanakama says only if it's big, but if it will be small, mashma that it wouldn't be good even if he made it for roofing. And that's it. But as it says, no, small is also good. I'm just reading the Mishnah like how it would mean the simple words. But Rashi says it's impossible because everybody agrees that if you made it referish for schach, for roofing, I said it was schach doesn't mean schach of sukkah. That means for roofing. It says no question that is kosher. It can't be Tanakama means that if you made a small one expressly for the purpose of roofing, that it's not good. There's no reason for that. So therefore, the Gemara is not going to even have entertained that as a possibility. It's not even a possibility. So we have to figure out what is the machlokes between Tanakama and Rebbe Lezer. What are they talking about? If everyone agrees if you made it expressly for sleeping, it's surely not good for schach, no matter what size it is. And if you made it for roofing, then surely it is good, no matter what size it is. So what is this machlokes here about, big and small? What is it all about? So the Gemara starts talking about stam. Stam means that you didn't make it expressly for anything. You just made it stam. We have to figure out on the default what is it usually used for. But the Gemara finds a contradiction because the Mishnah talks about if you made it expressly for sleeping or you made it expressly for roofing, it doesn't talk about stam. The Gemara is going to say that the Mishnah is coming to teach you from the implication. If I say that this is puzzle, so you could deduce that the default, a stam, would be kosher. If I say that this is kosher, you could assume, you could deduce that the stam would be different. The Mishnah seems to be inherently contradictory. First he said, this big one, this big mat, if you made it for sleeping, so it's not good. But that means only because you made it for sleeping. Only because you specifically made it for sleeping. But if you didn't make it for any specific purpose, that would be kosher. Then right away, in the next sentence, he said that if you made it for roofing, then it is kosher, and you could deduce from that time. But if you didn't make it expressly for any specific reason, that it would not be kosher. So what is the halacha? If you made it stam without any specific intention, is it kosher or not? So the Gemara has a dochak over here, but the Gemara we have to suffer. To bear the dochak, because the Mishnah is not readable. So even though the Mishnah says we're talking about a big one, Gedola, but the Gemara is going to stick in, we did this already yesterday, that it doesn't mean, in the Sefer doesn't mean a Gedola. At the beginning it says a big one, if you made it expressly for sleeping, is no good. But stam is good. And then here when it says l'sichoch is good, that means a ketana already. We're talking about a ketana. Stick in the word ketana, right here before. If it's a small one, then if you made it specifically for roofing, then it is kosher, but stam is not good. The way the Gemara reads it so far, it comes out that a big marcellus is usually kosher, and a small marcellus is usually not kosher. If you made it specifically, fine, that is good. The big one, if you made it specifically for sleeping, is not good. A small one which you made for roofing is good. But the whole mission is talking about, well, we beat the din of stam. So it tells you that a big one is only not good if you made it specifically for sleeping, and a small one is only good if you made it specifically for roofing.
So if you find a big one in the street, you maybe use it for sukkah, you
According to what we have so far, so then we'll say it's good, because big one means that's a huge thing and it's not usually used for sleeping. You could assume that's kosher. Then the question is, what does Rabbi say? Now, all this is very good in the Tanakama, but the Mishnah continues. says the same thing by Ketana. So the Mishnah, whatever the Gemara tried to fix in the Tanakama, that's sticking the word Ketana, that's not going to work anymore, because Rabbi says Achas Ketana v'Achas Gedola. He says in the Mishnah, big and small, and he says the same thing over again. The Shchiva is not good, and the Sichuch is good. So the contradiction again rises, and you don't have the answer over here, because you can't say sticking the word Ketana. It says Farish, Achas Ketana v'Achas Gedola. That's the most question now. Rabbi Omer, both a big one and a small one. If you made it specifically for sleeping, it's not good. And the Dia gives, the implication is, time of the Asar L'Shchiva, it's only not good if you made it expressly for sleeping. That's how we deduce from Abelaz's first statement. And again, there's no difference big or small. He says farish, no difference big or small. If you made it for farish for sleeping, it's not good, but stam is good. And then right away he says that it's only good if you made it for sichach. And the next words say, Asar L'Sichach, Musachim Ba'ben Mekabel Stoma. He says if you made it for roofing, then it's kosher. Time of the Asar L'Sichach, Stam L'Shchiva. That would be implied that stam is not good. So we have the same kasha as we had before, but before we'd be able to help out by sticking in a word. But here you can't stick in a word because it says very. So back to the problem again, we don't know how to read the Mishnah. We do it says something about we're trying to figure out the din of stam, that if something was made without any specific purpose, is it made stam on a default? Is it made for sleeping or for roofing? And we don't know yet. We don't know how to read the Mishnah. So the Gemara starts a nupshat. So the first pshat is erased, we scratch it as they say, and now we're going to start pshat. Everybody agrees that a stam big one is kosher. Keep playing big tana. The machlokes is a stam small one. And now we're going to be, I'll just say it outside first, then we'll see it inside how it fits into the words. Tanakama says a stam big one is good. And you could deny, but he doesn't talk about a stam small one. A stam small one is not good because it's the size of a bed, so it's probably used for sleeping. And the Rabbi is going to say that a stam small one is also good. That's how Rabbi is going to get it into the Mishnah. A big one, again, whatever we say big, it means bigger than the size of a bed. So then everybody agrees that a default and stam it was made for roofing and it's kosher. Machlokes is a small one. Tanakam stam ketana l'shchiva. Rabbi stam ketana l'sichach. Tanakam holds that a stam small one is possible for schach because it's probably made for sleeping purposes. And Rabbi says even that's also kosher. How does it read into the Mishnah? The Gemara is going to now read that into the Mishnah. On the top of Daf Chaf, Vachi Kamar. This is the way that we're going to read the Mishnah. Now the problem was that the Mishnah seemed to say everything about the favorite. She specifically made it for roofing. He specifically made it for sleeping. The Gemara is going to change that a little bit. A big mat. If you made it specifically for sleeping, it's not kosher. So not kosher for schach because it's made for a bed. And then the Mishnah doesn't mean to say if you made it for sichuch, it's kosher. If you, it's only not kosher if you made it specifically for sleeping, but if not, stam is good. Go back to the Mishnah. Let's go back to the Mishnah again. Jump back to the Mishnah. It's been a stam is good. This is the Mishnah over here, and the way he's reading the Mishnah is going to be that it's only not a big one. It's only not good if you made it for sleeping, but otherwise the sichuch. Otherwise, when the stam is the sichuch doesn't. This word the sichuch doesn't mean that you made it specifically for schach. It means stam is kosher. So how do you read the Mishnah? That a big mat, if you made it specifically for sleeping, it's not good. Otherwise, it's kosher. And Rabbi is going to say the same thing. A big one and a small one, it's only not good if you made it for sleeping. But stam is the sichuch, and it's going to be kosher also. So the machlokes is the way Rabbi reads the Mishnah. Everybody holds that a stam big one is good. Machlokes says if a stam small one is good. Tanakama says no. Rabbi says yes. I'm David.
Yeah, it's just that the Tanakama is just it's too vague. It's like
you have to, you see, it's not so bad because asal l'shchiva means you made it for sleeping, and then it says l'sichuch. It doesn't say asal l'sichuch. He said you have to stick in there. Otherwise, it's l'sichuch. Stam is l'sichuch. Whenever it says l'sichuch in the Mishnah, it means stam. L'shchiva is if you made it for sleeping, then it's not good. But stam is l'sichuch and it's good. And the Gemara
Rebbe,
yes, please.
yeah, there's a very important
I
machlokes.
don't think we can talk about any important machlokes yet because we don't know how to read the Mishnah yet even. It's going to take time. We can't read the Mishnah even. The whole daf is going to be able to read the Mishnah. Then we can talk about machlokes. And it's okay to hold on because we're in the middle of figuring out how to read the Mishnah.
Well, the Shulchan Aruch and the Mishnah Berurah is Gores, the Rosh, and the Rid here.
I'm sorry, it's before the time. It's
Okay, we'll get there.
Premature. We have to skip the parentheses now. We're continuing reading the Mishnah according to Rava's explanation. He says the same thing over again, that it's only not good if you made it for sleeping. And if you didn't, then stam is kosher. But he says not only a big one, even a small one also. This is Rava's shot. It fits pretty well into the Mishnah, that pretty easily into the Mishnah, that issue is about a stam. L'shchiva surely is not good. What's the din of stam? Tanakama says a stam big one is kosher, and Rabbi Elazar says even a stam small one is kosher. Amalei Abaye. Abaye has a complaint to Rava's pshat. Yachi Rabbi Elazar Omer achas katana v'achas gedola, achas gedola v'achas katana miboile. The order of how he said both of them are good. He said both of the way the Mishnah says is achas katana v'achas gedola. Both are small and a big. A big one everybody agreed to. A big one everybody said is kosher. He's coming to say even a small one. So the normal style of talking would have been not only a big one, even a small one. Everyone says a big one, a stam big one is good. Then the comment said a stam big one is good. And if Elazar wants to say that even a stam small one is good. So he should have said both a big one and a small one. That's how we talk, right? We'd say, you say a big one, and I say both a big one and a small one. He starts off saying a small one. It means even a small one, and then they say a big one also. Everyone knows a big one. It's not the way you talk. So that's Rava's Abaye's problem, and Rava's pshat in the Mishnah doesn't get into the words. It doesn't. The style doesn't sound like that. See it inside the Yachi. The Mishnah says this is a quotation. The Mishnah says that's the way you say it. He should have said the opposite. Both a big one and even a small one is kosher. Tanakama said a stam big one is kosher. Each commentator said even a stam small one. He should have said both a big one and a small one are kosher. That's the way he should have spoken. But the way you're saying it, the Mishnah seems to have written the opposite. The Mishnah seems to say that the chiddush is the gedola, and according to you, the chiddush is not the gedola. Gedola, everybody agrees. The Tana is the issue. And the second kasha Abaye has on Rava's pshat is that there's a brisa against him. The way he explained the Mishnah, Rav Elazar is coming to be lenient even about a small one. Tanakama said a stam big one is good, and he said even a stam small one. But the brisa I'm going to bring now is going to say the opposite. That Rav Elazar is coming to be machmir, that even the gedola is not good. I'll prove you from a brisa. Keep pligi b'gedola with the pligi Rav Elazar l'chumra. I'll show you a brisa that says the machlokas is by big one, and Rav Elazar is coming to say a chumra that it's not good. The way Rav learned, the argument is by a stam small one, and Rav Elazar is coming to be lenient. Tanakama said a stam big one is good. Rav Elazar says even a stam small one is good. The price is going to say that Tanakama says something about a big one being good, and Rav Elazar says no, it's not so simple. That a stam big one is not good. So it's against your pshat. The time you learned in the price, they take out the base here. The base is not the style. Machzelas kanim gedola. Take out the first base over here. Machzelas kanim gedola. Misachin ba, which is what we said till now. That's what the Mishnah says. A big mat is kosher. Faschach. Rav Elazar Omer, imena mekabelas tumah masachin ba. Provided that it's not makabel tumah. That means Rav Elazar is coming to limit even what's good by a big mat. Tanakama says no small mat over here. Tanakama says a big mat is good. Rav Elazar says provided that it's not makabel tumah. What do you see? That Rav Elazar is coming to be machmir on a big one. So your pshat didn't read into the Mishnah. Your pshat doesn't read the way the brisa says. You're saying that Rav Elazar is coming to be lenient on a small one. The brisa says he's coming to be machmir on a big one. Ella Amar Rav Papa. So new pshat, and this is the final pshat.
If you make it for a big one, it's for the mela, it's not for shchiva.
I'm sorry.
If you're making a big mat, the mela, it's
No.
it's going to be out for shchiva.
No, that's the question. That's the question. We're talking about. No, that's the question. That is the question. If you made it without any specific reason, what is the din of stam? A stam big one is it kosher or not? Tanakama says it is. Rav Elazar might say not. Rav Elazar might even say that a stam big one is also a stam big one is not good. They make big ones also for sleeping. That's what the Abaye is saying. That's what the Brisa says. The question is how you fit into the Mishnah. So Abaye himself didn't explain it into the Mishnah, but Rav Papa is taking over, and he's going to say how Abaye's pshat, Abaye's law is going to fit into the words of the Mishnah. But this is going to be pretty hard in the reading, and I think that the Gemara says someplace that when the Gemara does this, it doesn't go on this Gemara, but he says a lot of times when the Gemara says a difficult reading into the Mishnah, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's what the author meant. The one who made up the Mishnah, he didn't have to mean this pshat because he would have said it much differently. But the Gemara wants to keep the text of the Mishnah, and put another sheet into the Mishnah. So sometimes we're willing to suffer, whatever the word is, to bear the difficulty of the wording in order to edit it a little bit, like so mechsras, things like that. Not because the author meant that, but because we want to keep the text and still continue. I think that it helps a lot of times when the Gemara does that. You think, why did the Gemara have to speak so roundabout? He could have said it much straighter. The Mishnah didn't mean that, but we hold like this, and we want to put it into the words of the Mishnah. Everybody learned Mishnahs by peh. Everybody knew all the Mishnahs by heart. So keep the Mishnah, keep learning the Mishnah, and just understand it a different way, even though that might not have been the original intention of the author. I think there was such a Gemara or other Achronim. Elam Papa.
Excuse me, when you finish Rav Papa, I do have a chart showing how that would come out.
Elam Papa. A stam small one is not good. A stam small, everyone agrees that way. Now got the opposite. No, everybody holds that a stam small one is no good. Rabbi does not come to be maker. And the Machlokes is a stam big one. Kifli big dola. Tanakama says a stam gedola l'sichof. Tanakama is lenient and says that a stam big one is kosher. And that's how we read the Mishnah Talmud. That was pretty good in the Mishnah. That it's only not good if you made it specifically for sleeping, but a stam big one is kosher, made for roofing. And Rabbi Lezer come to be machmir even on a big one. Rabbi Lezer says a stam gedola nami l'shchiva. That even a big one and a stam is made for sleeping and it's not good. Only if you made it specifically for schach. What did Rabbi Lezer mean when he said asal l'shchiva is not good? He meant to say that when a stam is made for sleeping. Stam asiyasa nami l'shchiva ad avid l'sichot. That even stam is not good. The Mishnah is pretty hard to read this way because Tanakama says that l'shchiva means a big one. If you made specifically for sleeping, then it's not good. But stam is good. Then Rabbi Lezer says that stam is l'shchiva. Only if you made it specifically for sichot. Even though they use the same words, it means altogether different things. So it's pretty dark in the words, but that's how it comes out. That according to the shita, which we hold like, that a stam small one surely is not good, and a stam big one, that's machlokes. Tanakam holds that's good. Rabbi Lezer holds that's not good. I just would add on my own thing. This is not authoritative. That these things the whole have to do with the time, the place, the culture, the supply and demand. What are things made for? I would think that if nowadays 95% of the mats, I'm not saying what the facts are. Maybe they're all made for sleeping. Maybe they're all made for roofing. Whatever it is. But it doesn't have to, I don't know why it should be dependent on what it was in those times. Nowadays, the culture might be much different. People don't sit on mats. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But they use nowadays. Yes, please.
That is exactly the interweave of the Rosh and the Rid. The Rosh holds that it goes Basar Minag HaMakom, which could change. Whereas the Rid holds that it goes Basar the Das of the Koina, that even if it was produced for Shkiva, if the Koina wants to use it for Schak, he can do it. And it comes out in halakha, a bit of an interweave, but the main point seems to be like the Rosh, is that if the Minag HaMakom is one way, then it goes that way. But the problem is Stama. And there's a little latitude like the Rid, but if it goes against Minag HaMakom, the Rosh says clearly it's Maris Ayin and it's a Gezerah because a Roya will think it's like Minag HaMakom and then he'll confuse him and he'll think that the other is mutter. So we paskin mainly like you're saying Minag HaMakom, and that could change from Zman to Zman. But there is that Das of the Rid who wants to say that it goes Basar Das the Koina, in which case there is a Makom in halakha where he's right, where it's Stama and there's nothing against the Minhag. So you have to see the Shulchan Aruch and Mr. Brewing side for that.
It still wouldn't have relevance what was in time of the Gemara. Everything the Gemara is talking about is because either it goes according to the manufacturer, or it goes according to the buyer. Very nice that you brought that up, but it has nothing to do with the times of the Gemara. Then we're saying that the times change according to everybody.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I'm agreeing with you. I'm saying that if the basis of the Pesach is that it goes Basar Minag HaMakom of what people use it for and what the manufacturer makes it for, then that should change. That should change,
what people buy it for also. What people buy for also could change. What is the standard?
Yes, but again, we don't paskin be'ikr like the Rid, that it's Basar Das Koina. We paskin be'ikr like the Rosh, that it goes Basar Minag HaMakom.
Yashikah. Levi, what do you have here?
I don't understand the arrows, but it says Elo Marav Papa, and so it shows that the.
It says that a big mat. if he
A
had
big mat, if you have in mind to sleep on it, you can't use it for skak. If it's stam, the middle is stam, so then it's
if he
okay.
had-
Whereas Rabbi
then,
Eliezer would say even stam is not okay.
okay, I think it's more confusing.
Okay.
Yashikar. Thank
What he's showing you is probably absolutely correct if you fit in the Shulchan Aruch and the Mishnah Brura, because we have here das and then we have stam, and we have both situations of big and small. So you have to fit it in with the halacha, and that's in the Shulchan Aruch and the Mishnah Brura.
Okay, Yashikar. Tana Banan. The Gemara brings in another factor now we didn't talk about till now. Till now we spoke about big and small. Anything else to talk about? Of course, das beferish. It comes out. There's no question. If you have das beferish, there's no issue. The question only is what the stam was. And we said the way the Gemara came out that the stam small one surely is not good, and big one was the machlokes. Now the Gemara brings in also another factor about.
I'm sorry to interrupt again, but it's not true. The last point you said. It
It's
comes
okay.
out in halacha that if you have das mefarish against minhag hamakom, it doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Shakar. Tana Rabbanan. The next issue the Gemara is bringing in now is about how comfortable something is. It means the reeds over here, we didn't specify. It said kanim. The Mishnah said kanim, which means reeds. But the Gemara is going to now differentiate between different kinds of reeds. Some of them are more comfortable than others. The Gemara is also going to talk about how it was made. It means if it was braided or woven, braided is more rough, and woven becomes more even. So the Gemara is going to bring in these factors also as far as if the stam is going to be for bedding or for roofing. In order to be for bedding, it has to be comfortable. So soft material, and if it's woven, there's all reasons why it should be more inclined to be used for sitting on, for sleeping. So the Gemara is going to talk about shif and gemi, and the next line is going to talk about kanim and chelas. Kanim and chelas are rough kind of reeds. We have the Mishnah kanim, and shif and gemi are two kinds of reeds that are softer. So a big one in a stam here, it's even if it's comfortable, but if it's oversized, it's bigger than a bed. So then it's in the stam it's for a schach, and a kitana, if it's the size of a bed, so then it's not good because it's comfortable and it's probably used for sleeping. Which is not so, it's pretty rough. It's rough. It's a hard material. Then the word here is gedula. That's tricky. That this word is not gedola. This word is gedula. And gedula means braided. So that's tricky. Rashi tells us that without Rashi, it would be very hard to figure out the Gemara. Just put out Rashi. Okay, it doesn't show much, right? It just shows that you have to feel it. You have to be able to feel the texture. This is what that is. Okay, Yashikar, but okay, not so helpful. We could go back on again. Just to show the Rashi where it says that the word here is gedula. Loshna gedula. Rashi doesn't have the vowels, but maaseh shar shiros, braided. And he says later on again, gedula maaseh avos, clear, braided. In contrast to aruga, which is woven. So that's a trick. So I don't know what to say. It's something that's important in the Gemara. In the reading of the Gemara, I'm sure those who have art scroll, probably it does say with gedula, not gedula. Okay, so now we're talking about material which is a rough material, kanim and chelas. Gedula mesachin ba, aruga in mesachin ba. If it's braided, which is rough, the fact that it's braided, it's not so even. So then you could use it because it probably was not made for sleeping on. But aruga, if it's woven, even this rough material also in mesachin ba, because now Rashi says that's talking about even what the Tanna Kama said that a small one is not good. What did it say before? By comfortable material. I'm sorry, the first case, comfortable material, so it says that big one is good, small one is not good. Now he's saying that by kanim and chelas, which is a hard material, even if it's small, it also is going to be kosher. Gedula masachin ba, even if it's small. Aruga in masachin ba, because then it's comfortable. So by shif and gemi, even if it's there's no fillik if it's woven or if it's braided, but because it's comfortable. So a small one is going to be used for bedding. But kanam and chelas, which is not comfortable, even if it's small, it's also going to be probably for schach and it's kosher. Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Shmuel said the name of his father Rabbi Yossi, Achazu v'Achazu Mezachin ba, even if it's everything, even the case of aruga, even if it's even if it's woven, it's also not comfortable enough to sleep on. He agrees that if it's sheep and gemi, which is comfortable, so then a small, comfortable, soft reeds, so then it's used for bedding. But if it's kanim, in any case is going to be kosher, which is really a simple pshat. If you read the Mishnah, that's what the Mishnah said before, by kanim, the Mishnah machsel shel kanim, and Rebbe Lezer, the simple reading would have said that it's kosher even if it's small. The Gemara rejected that, but here Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi does seem to say that kanim in all cases is going to be kosher unless he's made it specifically for sleeping. But if not, it'll be kosher. Rabbi Yossi says the same thing, that kanim is kosher for schach unless you made it specifically for sleeping. Tanan Astam. Again, I would just say that all these things are subject to change because it doesn't have to do with the time of the Gemara. It has to do with our times nowadays. So what the Gemara is talking about is the Messiahs of their times, what people used for. But nowadays it should change according to the Messiahs.
My question is, what about a chair?
What's the
Which is
question?
not small, and you sit on it.
No, there's no question that's the beginning of the sugya. Back up to the beginning of the sugya, there's no question. You have to put it in bronze. There's no question. Something which is made for sleeping is possible for schach. That's not a question. The whole sugya is revolving around stam. That you don't have any specific mind, nothing specific in mind, or the one who manufactured it, he doesn't do what you want with it. I'm just making it stam. What is the stam? The whole sugya is if it was stam. If it was made specifically for something, there's no question. There's no question either way.
They're only talking about sleeping, which is a bed.
Bedding was no difference sleeping or sitting or standing. That's all going to be tamei because tamei medrash. There's no difference in these things if you sit on it, you sleep on it.
I'm saying that they only dealing with if it's small. If it's big, then
Big means that it's bigger than the size of a bed. It's not probable that they made it for a bed because it's so big. They wouldn't make such a huge thing. They're making it for roofing. I'm making it for bedding. For a bed, you make the size of a bed. Make sense?
the only thing is that the seat is small.
A bed is big. We're not going to say once it's bigger than a seat, it's not made for us. It's made for a bed. A bed is also a reason to sleep on. If it's bigger than the size of a bed, so then it's probable that it's not made for sleeping. It's made for roofing. Just because it's bigger than a chair doesn't mean it's made for roofing. It's made for sleeping. But if it's bigger than the size of a bed, it means it's not made for sleeping, so it's made for roofing. In halachas of medrash, no different sleeping or sitting. Both of them are still tamei medrash, so it wouldn't be kosher b'schach. The Gemara brings in a Mishnah because we mentioned Avdosa. It's going to come.
We had this problem, my Chavrus and I, in the word Gedola, and Rav Mikkel solved it right away. The both times it appears in the Gemara, he defines it by saying Machatzelas Gedola is she'ein regilim la'asot kemoisa l'shkiva b'stama hi asuya l'sichuk. That's how he defines Gedola in the Gemara.
Good. Nanasam, a Mishnah in Edios. Kol achutzlos temei metamen temei meis. Dibri avidosa v'chacham omer medris. That's the end of the Mishnah, and it has the word chutzlos. Still now we have the word machzelos. Machzelos means a mat. The word chutzlos is similar, but we don't know what it means yet. I think Gemara is going to analyze what the word chutzlos means. So far, just take the word without even knowing what it means so far. So Tanakam Avdosa, we just had Avdosa a second ago. Over here, Avdosa, that's why we're bringing him again, because he's in this Mishnah. We're going to try to figure out what he means over here. So he says that all chutzlos are susceptible to tumas meis. Tumas meis is an example of all kinds of tumas. It's ava tuma. It's the Gemara is going to say soon. It's a contrast to medris. Medris means that it's made something which is designated for sleeping or sitting, and if it doesn't have that, so then it's not susceptible to tumas medris, which is a very chomer tuma, very severe tuma. We won't go into the details now, but the tumas meis is also very severe, but it's not as severe as tumas zeh. So, and the pshutek leitz, if it has a kli which does not have a base kibble, so it's not susceptible to all tumas unless it's fitting for sitting or sleeping. Just to get an example, if you have something which is a chair, let's say a chair, or some kind of a mat, which has no base kibble, doesn't have a receptacle. So why is it makabel tuma? Because it's roy lemedris, because it's something which is fitting for sitting on, sleeping. So even if it doesn't have base kibble, it's still tummy.
It's a kind of a kli.
Even though it's a klip, the place will be tahor, but the fact that it's medri, the fact that it's roy the medris, that's why it's mikabel tumah. So here it says something about chuslos, which we don't know what chuslos means yet. But those who say it's susceptible to Tumas Meis. Medrash. Medrash means something which is used to, is susceptible to Tumas Zav, which is a much more severe Tumah, and it's made for sleeping and sitting. But the Gemara doesn't understand the words yet because it doesn't say Af Medrash. It says Medrash. And the Gemara says, what do you mean to say only Medrash and not Tamim Meis? Medrash sin Tamim Meis low. Is that possible? There's a famous rule. If anything is susceptible to Medrash, anything is made for sleeping or sitting or standing on, also for that matter, so then it's Makabal Tumas Meis, even though it doesn't have a base kibbutz. So these words don't make sense. It sounds like if Dosa says Tamei Meis, and the Chacham say Dafka Medrash. That doesn't make sense. Medrash is more Chamur. If it has Medrash, it surely has Tamei Meis. So the more puts in the word Af. Ema Af Medrash. You're right, that's what it means. That if Dosa says Dafka Tamei Meis, and the Chacham say even Medrash. So we're talking very much in the clouds. We didn't even know what Chuslos means. But this is Machlokis if it's only Mekabel Tumas Meis, means regular kind of Tumas, or even Tumas Medrash. So now, what does all this mean? My chuslos. Now we're getting to the just the alibes. What does that mean? What does chuslos? What does chuslos mean? Amar Rav Avdimi Bamduri. You know what it means? It means marzuvli. Does that help us? We don't know what marzuvli means either. My marzuvli. What does that mean? The reason why the Gemara says is because different generations they didn't know what it meant. At his time they knew what it meant, but then later generations would continue and we didn't know what that means either. So Amar Baba, it means mazavli. What does that mean? So we have to ask Rashi also now. So Rashi tells us that it means some kind of a pillow. We'll see in the Gemara soon that it means it's some kind of a bag that can be used to hold things in. But also, Rashi says that the shepherd also might use it as a pillow. Sometimes when he has to lay down, he'll take this bag and he'll also use it as a pillow. If it's a pillow, then it's also medrash. It means he lies on it also. So again, chutzlos, so far this one shot, some kind of a bag that could be used as a pillow. And Rav Dosa said that it's not the Tamim Medrash. It's not called a good pillow. And it's not comfortable enough to be used as a pillow. And it surely is going to be a bag. We're going to see there's going to be a bag that has contents. So since it's a base kibbutz, so it is Mekabel Tumah. That's one shot. All this was Avdimi Bamduri that says that it means a pillow. I shouldn't say a pillow. I should say some kind of a bag that can be used as a pillow, maybe. And Dosa says no, it's not comfortable enough to be used as a pillow, and therefore it's not medrash. It's only Tamei Meis. And the Chachamim say it's even comfortable enough to be used as a pillow. A second shot in Chutzlos of Shimon ben Lakish, this is what we're looking for now. This is getting into our subject. Of Shimon ben Lakish, Shama Machzalos Mamish. Chutzlos means Machzalos, even though it's not exactly the same word. Chutzlos means also a mat. So now we're getting very close to our subject. He says a mat. Here it says it's Mekabel Tumah. What kind of Tumah? Some say Tumas Meis, some say even Medrash. But now we're getting closer to home base, which was is a Machzalos Kashukut Feschach. And we said that there's an issue about a Machzalos being kosher Feschach. A few lines ago we said in the name of Rav Dosa that a machzelas is kosher pesach. That you're allowed to use a machzelas of kanim for schach. That means it's not Mekabel Tumah. This is going to be a short circuit later on. The Gemara is going to say here, Dosa says that it is Mekabel Tumah. Tumas Meis. Chacham say even Tumas Medrash, but it's Mekabel Tumah. If it's Mekabel Tumah, it's not good for schach. That's what the Gemara is going to. That's how the Gemara brought it down. Eventually, the Gemara is going to ask the kasha on the days. But anyway, Rav Shimon said that chutzos means machzalos. Before the Gemara goes further, Resh Lakish, the Gemara is going to bring down someplace else also. That he said. Second, please. Before the Gemara goes further, so Resh Lakish's Gemara is going to be someplace else where Resh Lakish said the same thing, that chutzlos means machzalos. The Azda, Resh Lakish l'tamei. Resh Lakish is consistent, but he says someplace else.
What's Azda mean?
Azda means he goes. Azda means to go. Azda, he's Azda. Azda, same thing as Azda. Yeah, same thing as Azda, right. He goes l'tamei, and the Gemara brings another place, an interesting side point over here, one of our cruises. Resh Lakish, Haveni kaparas Rabbi Chia Bana. I should be a atonement for Rabbi Chia Bana. This is what a person says after his father or his Rebbe. Here he says even a Rebbe. After he died, it says within a year, by a father, within a year. So when he mentions his father, instead of saying Zechron L'Bracha, he doesn't just say of blessed memory, he says, Haveni Kaparas Mishkavo, which means I should be an atonement. Any suffering that comes upon me should be an atonement for him. And that Rashi says the solution cover that a person says for his father or mother or Rebbe. Here's a Rebbe over here. So Resh Lakish said, in the name of Reb Chia and his sons, the sons of Reb Chia were Yehud and Chizkiah. Yehud and Chizkiah, the sons of Reb Chia. before the Gemara continues what he said, there's a big parenthesis over here. It's going to continue talking about what he said on the bottom of the page. But before the Gemara gets there, what Rav Chia said, first the Gemara explains who's Rav Chia Banav that Rish Lakish was so willing to take upon himself suffering for the atonement of Rav Chia and his sons, as if they needed kapara. They were great Rav Chia and Banav. But why were they so great? So this is like a mamash side point. When Torah was forgotten, we saw in the Navi that when Ezra came up, so the first there was in the second Aliyah. The first Aliyah was before Ezra came up. I forgot how many years earlier. He came up after the Beis Mikdash was already built. The first Aliyah was they started building and then they were detained. They were restrained for about, I think, 22 years. I'm not sure what the dates exactly. And then they did build Beis Mikdash and he came up. I think it's about 30 years after the first Aliyah went up. But anyway, the Torah, the status of the Torah observance wasn't as great as it was after Ezra came. Ezra brought everything up. Over there, the Gemara talks about that some people had married non-Jewish women. That happened about 100 or so people had married non-Jewish women. And when Ezra came, he reestablished the Torah. He came up from Babel and he reestablished Torah in Eretz Israel. Chazon Nishtaka happened again later on in times of Hillel. All Hillel Abavli V'yasta. We had that Gemara Psachim that he learned by Shema and Talion. And when he came back from Babel to Eretz Israel, so the people in Eretz Israel, the Bnei B'Seira, the ones who were leading the people, they didn't know some halachas and they gave over the leadership to Hillel. That's the case where it says when it came out there Pesach on Shabbos, they didn't know if it's Dochel Shabbos or not. And Hillel Abavli said it is Dochel Shabbos. He said, "How come you don't know by Shema and Talion?" We had that Gemara Psachim. And other things also seem that Hillel was the one who reestablished Torah in Eretz Israel. And it happened again in times of Rav Chia, times of Rebbe, Rav Chia.
But if Nishtach, what, the halachas?
Some halachas, some of the Torah observance. And Rav Chia Banav, they're the ones who reestablished the Torah. The Gemara does say that Rav Chia Banav, Rav Chia was careful, was the one who says about him that he would take 5 Talmidim. He took 5 Talmidim and he taught them Torah and 6 taught them Mishnayos.
He fed them, made their own Torah for them, and they wrote 5 books.
But that was a Chia?
Yeah, so that could be what the Gemara is referring to over here. I'm not sure. But anyway, what does it say? That Rav Chia, he reestablished Torah in Eretz Israel. Anyway, Rav Shlakish said, my suffering should be a kapara for them. But that's not the point. What do we get to now? Back to the Mishnah over here about Chitzlos. Timeos.
Is that a question?
No, it's not a question. He's saying that they didn't argue. He's coming to explain. All we want is the last line over there that it says machsalos. The last line at the bottom of the page before. Let's go back to the second ago. It says machsalos. He's coming to Avdosa, the machzing about chutzlos, and he says that this kind of machsalos, that kind of machsalos means it was without saying, it was partial to Rav Chia and his sons, Yud and Chizkiah, that when they said chutzlos, it means machsalos. So this is supporting Rish Lakish, who said in the name of Rav Chia that before he said chutzlos means machsalos, and this is the same thing. Just to go back a couple of lines and see what it's referring to. Rish Lakish said machsalos mamish, that chutzlos means machsalos, chutzlos means mats. Does the Rish Lakish tamei, because he said in the name of Rav Chia that it means machsalos, and they're even talking about details, what kind of machsalos. But the Gemara is going to say now, if he is going to say, is that it depends what kind of mats. We spoke about mats. Machlokes if it's makabel tumas medrash or not. Tanakama says only tumas meis. Avdosa says tumas meis, and Rabbanan say even tumas medrash. And now he says it depends how comfortable it is. Something here, 1 second, 37, 38. Here we are. Yeah, just have to get the page number over here. I'm sorry about that. So everybody agrees that the ones made in Usha were comfortable, and they made them for sleeping, and therefore they're makabel tumas medrash. Shel Tveria shem netain Torah. So in Tveria, the ones they used in Tveria were not made for sleeping at all, therefore they're not makabel tumas medrash. Amanech l'kol sham makom was places that not Tveria, not Usha, and those places who use mats are used for sleeping, for sitting on. They're not usually used for sitting on, so therefore they're like tveria, and they're not the couple to medris. Since some people do, if they need something to sit on, they would take one of these mats, even though it's not so comfortable, and they would sit on it. So sold some couple to medris. Anyway, what did the Gemara want from all that? That the word chutzlos means matzalos. And what did it say? Abdosa says it's Mikabel Tumas Mace. Not Mikabel Tumas Medris because it's not comfortable enough, it's not used to sit on, but it is Mikabel Tumas Tuma. And the question is that here we said by these things, they're Mikabel Tum at all. And that's what the Gemara comes to now. Amamar. Kala chutzlos to me, matami, mace de Abdosa, and the one is even Tumas Medris. But Abdosa himself says that it is susceptible to Tuma. If it's susceptible to Tuma, it shouldn't be kosher b'schach. And Abdosa said before, Batanya, V'chein Abdosa Amakidvarov, that he also agrees to Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi, in the name of his father Rabbi Yossi, that the chutzlos are kosher f'schach. If it's kosher f'schach, means it's not Mikabel Tumah. Here he says it is Mikabel Tumah. That's the Gemara's kasha. So again, we're talking about something which is not used to sleep on, or else it will become a medris. So it's not comfortable enough to sleep on. Still, it says that it's still Mikabel Tumah, other kind of tumahs besides medris. But here, Abdosa said that's kosher f'schach. Lo kasha. How this like gedanfa or less like gedanfa? The difference is if it has a rim or not. So this goes back to the regular din that a kli eitz is only mikabel tumah if it has a base kibul, only if it has some kind of a container, a receptacle, something to hold, to retain them. So these mats, sometimes that we're going to see soon, sometimes they made them with a rim, sometimes they didn't. So if it's not fit for sleeping, so it's not mikabel tumah medris. See, that's what go is mikabel tumah at all. Depends if it has a base kibul. If they have a rim around it, so that's mikabel tumah. If it doesn't, it doesn't. The word gedanfa means a rim, and that's to point out that it's the targum uncleus of the word misgeres. When it says the word misgeret in Parshas Truma, where it talks about the shulchan, it's have misgeres, vasis shalom misgeres, topach saviv. So the word misgeres over there, the targum for that is gedanfa. Gedanfa means a rim, a misgeret, a frame.
That word there, both lines being what? Both on the
Gedanfa, that's it.
Gedanfa.
Some don't have the nun, some have only gadfa, same thing. Gedanfa, gadfa. So we answer the kasha that this mat, that's not makabel tumah, it's not used for sleeping, but if it has a rim around it, some kind of frame, so then it's going to be a base kibul, that's makabel tumah, also not good for schach. Only if it doesn't have this rim, that's why it's kosher for schach. The Gemara continues, not our subject, but it's going to go down for about 10, 15 lines, just to figure out about these chutzlos. We had a question if chutzlos means a mat. We're all going that it means a mat, but the Gemara said another possibility that's a bag that's used for the shepherd, and maybe he puts his head on it down, he puts his head on it, maybe it's makabel tumah medris. So we're all going into, we're going to open up a subject about that, which is not our subject because we just have to have something which is not makabel tumah medris, it's not makabel tumah mace. It has to be something which is not, has no rim, it's not used as a container at all, and also that it's not used as a medris. It's not used as a pillow, not used as a bed, not used as a chair. Meisvei. Akasha from a brisa, it says in a brisa, chutzlo shel sham, v'shel gemi, v'shel sap, v'shel sfirim. This is the same brisa as read before. Here it happens to say also af medris. Before we were missing the word af, and the more had to clear it up that it means af. The brisa says only Tumas Mace. I'm going to say even Tumas Medris. But what the Gemara does see in this brisa more than before is that it gives a list of different materials, that examples of what this might be made out of. Sham, gemi, sak, and sfira. So sham usually called cork, I'm not sure, and gemi, reed, sak, sackcloth, sfira, I don't know. But the Gemara is going to say what the two possibilities were, that this chutzlos means either a bag that's also used as a pillow or a mat, and even though it's not usable as a medris, it still is usable, it's still makabel tumah. The Gemara is going to try to figure out from these things what is it usable for. So it's going to be easy Gemara. It might be a lot of words and go over and over again, but just to get a preview what the Gemara is going to say, if you're talking about a bag that can be used as a pillow sometimes, and the Gemara says according to Abdos, it's not comfortable for a pillow, so it's not a pillow, it's only a bag. And it says here that it can be made of sham, gemi, sak, and sfira. What are these bags used for? You have bags made out of shackloth. You have bags made out of these kind of reeds and stuff. So the Gemara is going to say yes, that sometimes you make bags made out of these reeds, and if it's a loose weaving, so then you can only put big items into it. If it's a tight weaving, you can put even small things into it. But the Gemara is going to find that the Messias was that you could have a bag made out of these materials. On the other hand, if it's talking about a mat, you have to talk about mats that are made out of these materials. And the Gemara is going to say yes, you have such kind of mats that are made out of these materials also. The Gemara starts. Marzuvli, if the chutzlos over here, translation of the mats is these bags, Marzuvli, a bag that can use, that sometimes used as a pillow. shall sham shall gem yichazol akinsa the peri, shall sak shall yichazol agulki b'tzani. That they are usable as a bag to contain things. Rashi says kinsa the peri would be something to be able to contain some kind of food, which are big items. It's a loose netting, and therefore it can't be used for small items; it'll fall straight through. But it can be used for big items. Fine. And if it's shall sack shall sphere, it's made out of sackcloth, and this other kind of reed, which is made, which is I don't know if it's a reed. I take it back. I don't know what a sphere is, but it's going to be more tightly woven than it's even chazul l'gol k'bitzani. It's used as any kind of a bag, which can hold even small items.
Our scroll says horsehair.
What is it? I'm sorry.
Horsehair.
Horsehair. So then it can be. Thank you. And then it can be made also as tightly woven, and it's even able to hold small items also. If it's talking about mats, so what are the mats usable if they're made out of these materials? Rashi says parsi means some kind of a vilon, a curtain. Others learn that parsi means a kind of a sifter, which goes together with nafasa, napa b'kfara, they say. So it's usable as some kind of a kli, even though it's not going to be comfortable to use as a bed, but it can be used as a kli. I think what I was going to say, it depends if it has a rim around it, is it going to be pishutik leitz or not? If it has a rim, then it'll be mekabel tumah. What could you use a mat made out of sham and gemi? And the Gemara says that's also usable. This seems that it's going to be a little more loosely woven. What can we use it for? We can't use it as a sifter. It's too loosely woven to be used as a sifter. Rashi says it's used as a cover for a barrel of beer. He also could use it as a cover of some sort. So the Gemara is happy that according to either pshat, we have a pshat. Why should we be mikabel tumah? Even if it's not usable as a mat, it's usable for some other kind of a kli. What are we saying in the Bible?
Here I see that it's not. This is not loosely woven, but there. This is the nazisa.
Yes, sir. Some kind of a covering for a barrel of beer. Okay. Yes, go. And the second Gemara is the same thing over again, just what the Gemara took first as a given, a simple, and then the other thing was more complicated. Here's the opposite. The Gemara first understands the Marcellus, doesn't understand the bag, but the same words over again, just opposite order. Ikadam the other had a different version, but the same content. And if you say it's talking about mats, we understand that the loosely, this is the loosely woven mats are usable as a cover for a beer barrel, and the ones that are more tightly woven can be used as a sifter. If it means the bag, what are these bags used for? If it's tightly woven, it could be used for small items. If it's loosely woven, so what kind of bag is this? Everything falls through. You use it for big kinds of produce that also you could, melons, whatever it might be, that you could hold it for that also, and therefore it's also makabel tamah. But again, the sugya, again, it has a lot of details. We got some halachas about tumas meis, tumas medris, and whatever's makabel tumas medris is tamei meis. We do get halachas out of this, but the actual applications, we're saying that if it's something which is used for sleeping, it's makabel tumas medris. If it's not, then you have to know it's pshutik leis. It shouldn't be makabel any tumah. But if it has a rim around it, then it's a container. So then there will be makabel tumas meis and other kinds of tumas. That's not tumas medris. And one more to learn the Hanania, he was the nephew of Bishua, as we'll see right away. When I went to Gola, he was there as Israel. He went to Chosloris. I found the Zakin who said that you could use budya. Budya is a marcellus, a mat. You could use a mat for a schach. It's kosher schach. As our Mishnah says, marcellus panim mesachim, which probably goes into the whole sugya. Is it big? Is it comfortable? All that. Of course, if it was made expressly for sleeping, then it's not going to be kosher. It means when you're allowed to assume that a marcellus was made for roofing, and therefore it's kosher.
Budya is a mat.
Budya is a mat. Budya is not as Aramaic for marcellus. When I came to my uncle Rabbi Yeshua, he agreed that's true. You could use a marcellus, which is our halacha. Our whole sugya said you could use a mat. Again, if it was made for sleeping on, then it's not kosher. And the whole sugya was, what is the stam?
Why is mat then kosher?
Because it was not made for sleeping.
But you can walk in.
It was not made for walking on. It was made for roofing.
Oh, I thought it meant that you can walk.
You're thinking about a mat of today.
Yeah, I'm thinking about today.
So not necessarily.
Yes.
Amrav Chisda today also could be that place where mats are made for roofing, also roofing or partitions, depends what they're made for. Amrav Chisda, wood the less they get done. It's only kosher if it has no rim. Here's again, if it has a rim, even though it's not comfortable for sleeping, but it'll be still makabel tumah because it's used as a base kibble, and a base kibble is makabel tumah. As far as sukkah goes, it doesn't make a difference what kind of kabbalah is tumah. If it's susceptible to tumah, it's not going to be kosher for a schach. Ula said that these mats of the city called Mechuzah, if not for their rim, the word kir means a wall, it means the rim around it. If not for that, you'd be able to use it for schach. But they have a rim, so it's not kosher for schach. Then you're allowed to use a mat for schach, but if it means it's not made for, this kind of mat is not made for sleeping, but if it has a rim around it, a frame, so therefore it's a base kibble and mesachim, and then you can't use it for schach. So the Gemara that's ended the first parak. Adon Allah, the first, not the whole Masech Sukkah, but the first parak of Sukkah Shili Gevol Malam Yashem Rama. Today's Sukkah was about the Matzelas. The Yisodas are simple. That if it's made to sleep on, surely it's not kosher because it's a Kabbalah Tumas Medris. If it's not made for sleeping, it's made for roofing, partition, nothing to do with the Shem Schach, not made for kosher Sukkah. It's made for roofing, not for Sukkahs. It's made for any kind of a roofing. Maybe also made for a Venetian blind. These things are not makabel tumah, so therefore it should be kosher for schach. If it has a base kibble, if it has some kind of a receptacle, so then it's not makabel. Then it's also makabel tumah. And the whole sugya is about stam, something which you don't know what it was made for. Was it made for sleeping? Was it not made for sleeping? So it has all these different factors and machloksin. If it's bigger than the size of a bed, that's leans more to the side that it was made for roofing, not for the size of a bed. They shouldn't have made it so big. Also, there's the issue about how comfortable it is. Sheep and Gemi are comfortable, so therefore there's more reason that a small one would be made for sleeping. Talks about kanim that are not so comfortable, but if it's woven in contrast to braided, also might be more comfortable and might be problematic. And some say that everything is kosher. But again, the whole sugya l'chara has nothing to do with the times they had in those times. It's only Messias the Gemara is discussing according to their times. Take the principles and apply it to today, and you have to find out today the stam mats. What are they made for? If it was made specifically for any reason, so surely if it was made for sleeping, it's not kosher. If it was made for roofing, it is kosher. And if not, then you have to know what the stam is in our time and place and culture. What is the stam made for?
Nobody buys mats for the roof.
You're right, but maybe they do it for partitions, maybe for blinds. These things also, I think the blinds also shouldn't be in Kabul Tumah. It's a Pshutik Le'etz. I think that wouldn't be in Kabul Tumah. Gemara does talk about a vilon that a curtain is Kabul Tumah because the Gemara says that sometimes the shamash, the servant, he might be cold, and while he's waiting on somebody, he'll go to the curtain and wrap himself up in order to warm himself up. But nowadays you don't have that. Surely not the mess that we have. They're not able to wrap yourself in it. And you don't have the shamash doing that nowadays, so I don't think it would be Kabul Tumah. So I think that the mats that are made for blinds also could be used for schach. Maybe I'm wrong. Before you do this for sukkahs, find out if it's true. But I would think that it's not Kabul Tumah. It's true to Kaliyatz. It should be kosher. But those are the issues. You have to have something.
The bottom line in halacha comes out that if it's stam and it's not keneged a makom, minag a makom, meforish is mahani, you can make it what you want. But if it's stam and there is a minag makom, even your meforish das will not help. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, I don't know. From the Gemara, I don't see that. We have a couple of minutes, and
It's the Rosh and the Rid, but the Shulchan Aruch and the Mishnah Berurah paskin that way.
Okay, Yashikoach. The next Mishnah, let's get into the Mishnah a little bit. Yashin Tachas Amita B'Sukkah. A little bit more familiar territory. Back into, we had a little about this. What if you're sleeping under the bed? So you're in a sukkah, kosher sukkah, bamboo, real kosher, 4 walls, no problems, anything we had until now, a real kosher sukkah, but you're in the sukkah and under the bed. So even though it's a kosher sukkah, maybe the bed is going to be separating between you and the schach, and like you're in a tent inside the sukkah, and that's a mafsik. Maybe it's not good. So what?
Definitely a problem. Did we learn that with?
See that? That's what we're
Here we are. We talk about a canopy. Oh, here you have somebody beautiful under the bed. You made a very tall bed, right? That's not. You don't have such tall beds. That's a pretty tall bed. 10
Oh, he's
tefachim.
sleeping in the bottom.
Under the bed, 10 tefachim. Look at that bed. That's 10 tefachim under the bed. Your average bed is not going to be so big. The 10 tefachim is 80 centimeters. The beds that we have are not 80 centimeters. Okay, Ashikoch, that helped us today.
Right.
Yeah, but it's a closet. I mean, you could-
Yeah, but you're not gonna get under the bed. How are you gonna get under the bed? You're gonna go into
Oh,
that.
no,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying, but I'm saying. But
You can't get on- you can't-
the beds themselves are-
We're not 10 foot, 80 centimeters off the.
Not 10 feet.
That's pretty.
Bunk bed.
Yeah, oh, bunk bed.
That could be. Hayash and Tachas Mita Besukah. That's the hold on to the bunk bed that maybe that'll be relative to us. Hayash and Tachas Mita Besukah. If someone sleeps under the bed, he's not the say. The sukkah is a kosher sukkah, but he's not in the sukkah. He's under the bed. Rabbi Yehuda argues. He says it is called Yayos under the bed, and he proves it because he says we used to sleep under the bed by this Canaan. The Talmidim, they were in the sukkah, and there's Canaan were there, and they didn't have the Talmidim didn't have enough room to sleep, so they went under the bed. And there's a Canaan didn't say anything. They didn't say get out from under the bed. You're not Yosei. How could you sleep under the sukkah? So Rabbi Yehuda argues and says that you are Yosei. Under the bed you are Yosei. So Machlokes. Reb Shimon is going to bring the story the opposite way to show that you're not Yosei. Reb Shimon, Ma'aseh b'Tavi, Abdul Rabbi Gamliel, Shayash Tachas Amita, Rabbi Gamliel's Ebed Kanani. His name was Tavi. Ebed Kanani, as we know, Ebed Kanani is like halachas only chayiv in a mitzvah lo saseh or mitzvah saseh shalos man groma, but he's like a woman. He's not chayiv in positive time-related commandments. So he was sleeping under the bed, and Rabbi Gamliel said to his Canaan, to his colleagues, Rabbi Gamliel is Canaan, Yisum Tavi Abdi Shu Talmid Chacham. You see my servant. Tavi is Talmid Chacham. What is Talmid Chacham about him? Yadeh Shavadim Tuman HaSukkah. He knows that he's supposed to from Sukkah, and therefore he's sleeping under the bed. That was what Rabbi Gamliel said to his colleagues. You see, my servant, he's Talmid Chacham. Why do you see his Talmid Chacham? Because he wouldn't be sleeping under the Sukkah if he would be Chayv in Mitzvahs. But he's not Chayv in Mitzvahs, and therefore he can sleep under the Sukkah. He wasn't sleeping there in order to be kind of Mitzvah. He was sleeping there in order to be available. If Rabbi Gamliel needs him, he'll be able to wait on him. But what do you see? That the Rabbi Gamliel said that you're not Yotzi under the bed. Only somebody who was not Chayv in Sukkah can go under the bed. But someone who's Chayv in Sukkah should not go under the bed. So that's supporting the Tanna Kama that says someone sleeping under the bed is not Yotzi. So by the way, we can learn from this. Means even though Rabbi Gamliel wasn't coming to teach us halacha, he was coming to just say, he said Sichas Hulin. He said to his colleagues, you see, my servant is smart. But we learn from that you're not Yosef to sleep under the bed. So Rabbi Machlokes, Tanna Kama says you're not Yosef under the bed, and it's supported by Reb Shimon's story from Rabbi Gamliel. And Rabbi Yehuda argues and says from his story that they slept under the bed by his Kenim. They didn't say anything. There's a proof that you are Yosef under the bed. To be continued. There's Hashem tomorrow. Yashikar, thank you.
So much. Thank you. Have a good day.
יישר כוח, יישר כוח.
Thank you.